again, we're going to post this up on our YouTube page, just so that if people couldn't be here. Well, hi, welcome. I'm so glad everyone could join us. Sorry, every once in a while I'm going to have to hit accept. Glad everybody could join us today. If you haven't had a chance, does anybody still need the link to the agenda? Anybody still need that? Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's I thought there was a chat. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. All right, let me just throw that in the chat real quick. Sorry, that's the long version. I sent you the shorter version earlier. But all right, let's see. There's Darren. I'm trying to think. Okay. Real quick, I think maybe let's just start by if we could have everybody introduce themselves real quick. I think we probably all have the same. I'm hoping we all have the same list. So if we just start with Andrea down here on the end. Andrea, if you could just take a second, introduce yourself, and let me know what your role is. I mean, I know what it is, but let everybody else know what your role is on the commission.
Hi, everyone. It's Andrea Bilkey. I'm the for Lighting History.
Okay. Anthony, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anthony Pilecchia, and I'm co-chair Light Lab with Design and Plot.
Autumn? And Autumn just left. I think she hung up the phone on accident. Brian?
Sorry, I got it on mute. Hey, I'm Brian. I am the VC for the Light Lab.
Okay, Cece?
Cece Khan, VC of Communications.
And Darren?
Am I unmuted? Yes. Okay. Darren Levine, Lighting Portfolio Coordinator.
Okay. Deanna?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, I'm Deanna. I'm the VC for programming for 2017.
All right, Dante?
Hi, I'm Dante Cannon. I'm one of the Light Lab coordinators.
All right, Eric?
Eric Bolton, I'm the VC for projection and media, and I'm also the special events coordinator.
Great. And Nate?
I'm Nate. I am assisting with scheduling for the Light Lab.
All right. Paul, you'd be next.
I am Paul Vincent, if that's who you meant.
It is.
Paul. I am the ESTA representative, new to the group.
Great. All right, Scott?
Scott Parker, and I'm doing awards coordination.
All right. And next on the list, all I see is S. White.
It's Steve,
hey, Steve.
Personnel for the Light Lab.
All right, great. And I think Tony was next.
Hey, I'm Tony, and I'm session chair and assistant vendor relations for Light Lab.
Great.
You don't look like Tony.
No, you don't.
No, I put on my rose mask tonight.
And finally, Victoria.
I'm Victoria. I'm co-chair of Light Lab for vendor relations, and I'm VC of alternative lighting. Did I get that right? Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. I'm trying to re-invite Autumn. And I'm Todd Prophet. I'm the commissioner. Well, welcome, everyone. This is the first time we've done a meeting like this. We kind of had a test run of this at the end of last year, and it worked okay. Hold on one second, guys. Autumn just texted me. Let me see what she's going on. She's having computer issues. All right. She'll try to get in when she can. Thanks. All right. Let me close this. The first meeting, I just kind of wanted to, I mean, if you look at the agenda, the big thing I just want to talk about what we do. I mean, a lot of us are new here, and it's conversation when we get into the conference, we don't have time to have. So I just want to talk about sort of what my expectations are, and I want to find out what your expectations are from leadership, and talk about just sort of what our major roles are. My first question is quite simple. And I'd be curious, and again, when you want to talk, just unmute and jump in. Why do you guys want to do this? What made you decide, or what's your motivation? Well, I don't know what's your motivation, but why do you guys want to do this? Why do you want to be a part of this group, I guess? Or
Well, for me, USITT as a whole pretty much facilitated multiple jobs and graduate school. So it's something that was so vital in my career. I definitely want to try and serve and see if I can help give back, and something that was very successful for me.
Okay. Anybody else want to jump in?
This is Tony. This is Tony Penna. I just want to say that for me, it's just about. I really look forward to having conversations with people outside of my normal circle here at the university.
Okay.
This is Paul Vincent. Just trying to help build relationships between people in the lighting industry, and also between specifically USITT and the Entertainment Services Technology Association.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Dante. I really like what USITT is doing, and just wanted to be a part of being able to give newer graduates and younger people an additional outlet to and inlet into our industry.
Okay. Very cool. Thank you all. Just for me, it's funny. When I started, I was actually writing a letter for Ellen Jones for her tenure yesterday, and I realized she's one of the people who got me into this. And I got it because I was interested in it. And then when I started teaching, I kept telling myself, oh yeah, it's for teaching, it's for tenure, now I have tenure. And my wife reminded me the other day, I can't really use that as an excuse anymore, because it's not. I mean, I do it because I want to serve. I want to serve the industry. I want to get some of these projects we got going and do cool sessions, like we'll talk about maybe the Musion session later. But I think we got some potential to do some fun things. So let me just go through the list real quick and talk about we sort of have three different categories or four different categories of leadership here and this is pretty much all of you guys here I've invited. First is a VC, is a vice commissioner. Typically, if you're a vice commissioner, your main duty is to represent whatever area you're sort of assigned to. And I'm trying to look at the list here. Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of VCs, but say Victoria and CC are both VCs. Now, CC's got an interesting position because the VC of Comm is, we made it a VC position because it's a huge job, and we wanted to give somebody credit for that huge job. So hers is a little different, but somebody like Victoria's, like she's the VC of alternative lighting, and it's the VC's responsibility to do two things: bring us special projects and help us with programming. So when we start looking for programming next year, we want to make sure we have a good balance. I don't think we did quite as good a job with that this year. As I look at our programming, there's a couple of areas that are missing that we just didn't get suggestions on. So I really want to make sure if you're a VC that you understand that's sort of your main gig. And the other big thing that we've added this year is the VC history. I'm sorry, sitting over there, Andrea. Sorry about that. Is supervising sessions, and we'll talk about that a little later. And I want to just get some clarification and get some feedback from the VCs that are in the room on how that's working and what we need to fix. The second area is representatives. The representatives is someone like Paul is a representative for ESTA. We have a vendor representative, which is Heidi Bowers, who's, I think she's on vacation right now, is sort of doing a similar job. And I forget, let me just look here what the other reps are. Student representative, which is Sherry. But essentially they're bringing whatever constituency they are, they're just bringing that voice in, and again, helping us with special projects and helping us with sort of programming that are select the student rep, obviously is gonna help us get the student perspective. It's like Paul, yourself, and Heidi, making sure we're getting stuff either vendors want to do or help us coordinate with your constituencies. Coordinators are sort of the next step down, and things like the poster session. Who's doing poster? I forget who's doing poster. Well, I got the list right here. Alan and
it's Philip and Alan.
Yeah. Scott's coordinating awards. So like he's been helping me put together the DA award. We got all that settled and in. It's just sort of helping us do the things we need to do. Portfolio review, which Darren's doing. So that's their main gig. But again, I want to make sure everybody understands the reason why we have this big of a group here is, if you're a coordinator or whatever, even if you're not representing a specific constituency, we still need your voice in programming and special projects. And then finally Light Lab, which is probably our biggest group here today. I mean, I'm glad to see you guys are very well represented. And of course, obviously you guys are for moving in the Light Lab. Brian, are there any expectations or anything you want to talk about, what you're looking for in Light Lab leadership?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just trying to open up the voice, open up the opportunities for people. For those of you who know a little bit of the history, the size of the Light Lab leadership is basically like 4 times what it had been traditionally. So, and so far I think it's working really well. Like, we're getting a lot of different ideas. We're getting a lot of new interest. It's cool. As you all know, Light Lab is one of the biggest things we have to do throughout our time at the various conferences. So it's good to have a lot of help.
Cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I just saw your email, Scott. Is that better? I pulled the mic back a little bit. Okay. Thank you. If you want to, you can I'm going to keep an eye on my email too, but there's also a chat. If you click on your window, there should be a little, on the side, it's a little blue with some lines. It will open up a chat window if you guys want to. If there's anything you need to say that you can't get a word in edgewise. All right, let me go back to the agenda. Give me a second here. All right, next thing I just want to sort of talk about is VC supervising sessions. This is something new this year. I guess, Andrea, why don't you talk about a little bit about what the issues have been so far, if you've had issues with this?
The only issues that I've run into is there's one that I'm not real clear on why it's under history. And there's not really much communication going on about it at this time, which is, I think, okay, but I just don't really know what's happening with it.
Okay, which session?
The Muni.
Okay, Deanna, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Do you want to touch base about that, or?
Sure. I mean, I think it's all kind of settled. It's that's David Fillmore's session, and Mitch, Dana, and Steve Gilliam are the panelists. I think those are the only 2 panelists. You had talked about seeing if we could add Peter Sargent. I think the only reason it got put with history, I think it was just because it was it's a historical place. I don't think there was really any deeper reason than that. But as far as I know, it's all under control. It seems to be under control.
Okay, I don't really know what's happening with it, or other than there's talk of discussing what it's like to go in that fast-paced situation, but there's not a lot in history, which is fine, totally fine. I see. I don't know where. I'm not real comfortable with where the line is of where do I get involved, and how do you want this supervisory thing to happen. because if it's not really history based, then I don't know what you want me to do.
Okay. I think, and again, I just started with you because I knew you've been working with this. My guess is you were probably assigned because the only other place it could go would be design, and unfortunately, the design area tends to get pretty heavily.
Oh, sure.
So let me just explain real quick what, for those of you who maybe either weren't at the conference or weren't able to go to the meeting, what we asked the VCs to, we started last year and it worked a little, but really I think this is going to be our first sort of full implementation of it. Is we've asked, as we look at the list of programming, we've assigned a vice commissioner, whose area it fits the best to sort of supervise that. The issue that USITT's had in the past, and it's a good issue, is that there's a quality control issue where there's just been too many sessions where clearly the night before it was put together, and the other thing is too, just sometimes I think people who haven't done sessions before haven't been to USIT sort of misread. For the longest time, it felt like every single session was geared towards a first-year freshman in college, so the professionals weren't getting as much. So what we're asking the VCs to do is to sort of, we assigned them. And it's hard to assign, like I said, because the design VC and the technology VC kind of get stuck with the most, Suggestions, do you guys have any suggestions on, is there a better way to do that? Other than, should we reach out more to more of the leadership as opposed to just having VCs do it? What do you guys think? Hey, Brian, I'll ask you because you've through lab, you've seen a lot of the programming stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the idea of it. I think it probably just needs more time for us to get used to it.
Okay.
It's a new thing, so even as the VCs, we're not, like Andrea said, we're not really sure what we're supposed to be doing. So I think we just kind of need to keep working it and adjusting as we go. But I like the idea of it. I do like that there's at least an attempt at getting a little more, for lack of a better term, quality control. Someone who's kind of looking out to make sure that session's going to play well.
I think, really it's like we said, quality control. It's first off with panelists, and I know we've already hit the August 1st deadline, so we're supposed to have all of our panelists in, and most of us do. So for those who maybe aren't here or are here as a VC, just double check with Deanna if you're not sure already who the panelists are, just to double check. And if you have any questions, feel free to bring it up with the panelists, but maybe include Deanna and myself just to sort of help so we can give you support. The next big thing will be non-member funding, so really looking at the panelists. So that's sort of the first part. Unfortunately, it would have been nice to have had this meeting before then, but I didn't think we could. So the panels so for next year, and again, I say this as I look through the list of Light Lab people and other people who are going to be moving up into VC positions, helping us keep an eye on. And if you have ideas for panelists, please let us know. The second part of this is content, is making sure, I think if you guys can really be pushing, the VCs can really be pushing to make sure that, we start thinking about the content ahead of time and not just the night before, and start to get, see if you can get some ideas of what it's going to be, just to make sure it's at that level that we've put it at. I mean, we identify which ones are intermediate, which ones are beginner, intermediate, and advanced, I think is what it is. Making sure it's at the level that we said it's going to be at, and really help. And I think in all cases, push the bar higher. Even for the beginner ones. I think sometimes we really underestimate what our audiences can do.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The first year that we did the poster session, I think there were some questions about that. As well, as far as content and whatnot. And they had deadlines in we need to see your poster, at least this preview of it, and then we needed to see a more fleshed out version, and then we needed to see the full version. But is that something that you want to go towards, so that if we have PowerPoints of some sort or anything like that, that becomes a checkpoint of sorts?
Deanna, is there a PowerPoint, or did we put in either a PowerPoint or an outline deadline? I can't remember.
Yeah, there are deadlines along the way. It's so when we did it last year, we told them when we accepted their abstracts, we told them that by a certain date we need to have a summary and a rough draft of the graphics, and then by this other date, which was I think like maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks before USITT, then we need to see the actual poster so that we can, I think it was 2 weeks, so that we could give them a little bit of feedback before they actually printed it, and it seemed to work out really well. I mean, there were still some content issues, I think, but I mean, I think we were keeping a really close eye on it throughout the process, and we were really working with the people who were having trouble along the process. So I don't know that those dates have necessarily been set. I'd have to set up for this coming year. I'd have to check with Philip, but it's Philip and Alan were with me along the way, and they're the ones chairing it this year. So I think they'll do it probably exactly the same way. So I don't foresee any problems with the poster session necessarily. But if the question is, do we need to have some deadlines along the way? For the other panels, I guess that's a good question. Maybe we could.
That's my main question, because if we're looking at content and for instance, we know what the panelists are, we know what the topic is, but we don't necessarily know what the content is at this point, and probably won't for a little. But once we get closer, if our expectation of us is to know what that is and be able to articulate it or assist in some manner, then it sounds like we should have something there besides, like Todd said, sometimes it's the day before, and there's just no way, if we had this sort of deadline, then maybe that would alter those that we do have trouble with.
Okay. Well, I mean, we have two approaches. The first would be Deanna and Otto might come up with a deadline and say, content to the VCs by X. The other way is just to let the VCs do that themselves. Or is it a combination of both, probably. What do you guys think? Is it just a deadline we should probably add in?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I'll admit I'm one of those guilty of once or twice, planning everything the night before at a bar. But I think the getting that information out sooner only makes us all more organized and prepared. It's a good idea.
Okay. Deanna, do you think we can do that?
I think you're gonna.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I think we're gonna. I've also been, tweaking plenty of presentations days, the week before. I'm working on a session that's bringing in several outside non-USITT folks. And I'm going to be working with them as the chair of the presentation. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to have everything together a substantial amount of time before our event. So we're going to have to work with that a little bit.
Okay. I think.
Yeah, I was going to say too. Sorry, can I?
Go ahead.
Can I jump in there? Yeah. I mean, I think that because Scott and I have had this conversation about the poster session too. It's like, you get so many deadlines down on the calendar, and it just gets super tedious and hard for people to. You get so many people involved. It's really hard to keep track of. I just wonder if we should just make a suggestion of, that the VCs could then say, okay, talk to their chairs and say by such and such a date, could we have had a conversation? And it could be even like a Google conversation with the members of the committee. The chair could set up a Google Hangout or something like that, where they could just have a conversation, and maybe the VCs could be in on that, and offer their feedback or something. I mean, I agree. I think that there needs to be some way of keeping us from people doing everything the night before, but also I think a little too much micromanagement kind of gets in the way. So that's my 2 cents.
I agree, and I think that one of the issues that I had last year with a session here or there, whether it was lighting or not, was that there's a lot of folks that don't really know how to put together a PowerPoint visual, and it ends up being all text, and then we have the occasional that simply reads us the slide, which I find sheer torture. So perhaps we can be, if we really want to be helpful to folks that may be new at this, or maybe nudge the ones that are not new at this but might not know any better, is to give them some examples of PowerPoints that are very effective with lots of imagery, and say we're looking for image-focused PowerPoints to support your narrative while you're talking to us. It's just a suggestion.
Well, and then could that be taken even further and have the Lighting Commission come up with some kind of a database if there is PowerPoint presentations that have been given where we're archiving that so that people can go back if they weren't able to go to the conference, or even just to go look at some of the stuff that was talked about at the conference, to have that database to go back to?
Well, I'm pretty sure, and I'll double check this at our meeting next week. I'm pretty sure the if they get turned in, that's the problem. We should be turning in our PowerPoints to USITT early enough or after the conference to put up. They'll actually put them up on the website so that people can come back and download them later, just like any sort of material. So that could be a database, but I think you're right. I think it's probably better to just do something in-house, commission-wise, to make it easy. Say, okay, as we sort of work on, as we're training chairs, say, hey, okay, here, go to this database, and look here, or VCs can send their people there, just so we can easily do that in-house. Scott, I would ask yourself and anybody who's listening, if you have a PowerPoint we should put up, send it to me, man. 5 seconds on Google, and I've got at least a repository for these. Divide them up by area, and then we'll just keep adding them as we go along. So those resources are out there. Like Sean Savoy sent me his lighting history one from last year, which I found really useful, and I was using it with some of my students. So yeah, we can definitely work on that. How would you feel something in the middle? What about a content outline? Ask for a content outline week before the conference. Is that outrageous?
Well, I've often, our description is often very helpful in having something that's a comprehensive or a better description than some of our sessions have, as opposed to an outline per se.
Well, we already have the descriptions; they're already in there.
Right.
If I could jump in, Todd, I would almost think that it needs to be further out than a week. Certainly being somebody who's been on the conference committee and producing it, if there was a way to do it before January, that's when we're sort of finalizing the book and finalizing all the sessions, that, if something changes, it really wants to be there that it happens.
Yeah, if I had a deadline of January, I would probably pull my session.
Because I know that the biggest problem that we ran into this year was there was a couple sessions that we had planned, the big ballroom around, or at least built in, and the week before it's impossible to really accommodate them if they change or the information happens. And I think, certainly in any role that I would be involved in, at that point I'm so nuts and bolts in the conference that I couldn't really be any help, to anything that's projection or media related. And at least, I know I'm new to it, but at least from my point of view, if we're proposing a session in March of the following year, that it seems like it's not impossible to have at least an outline of what you'd want to do, sometime in that year before.
Yeah, I don't think it would be that hard to come up with one. I do think, I agree, I think January may be hard for a lot of people to get it done that early. I would say this then, just looking at the VCs and those who are listening, is let's make sure by January that description is really solid. And if we can start a content outline early, I think that would be good. And the sessions that are in the lab and in the special events room have to be done earlier than that. They really, just because when we're thinking about gear and stuff like that. Brian, right?
Yeah, I think that's, without making all of this too complicated, different sessions are going to have different needs in terms of when information has to happen, right? So I think, as someone planning a session, just kind of keep that in mind, that if there's equipment needs, the sooner we know that, the better. When you can get an outline, great. If there's a chance to get a PowerPoint put together early, great. You know what I mean? I wouldn't make it deadlines. I wouldn't make it required. I would just kind of encourage us to all do that. That's my thinking anyway. And in terms of lab stuff, I think most people already are giving me information, which is good. That's what we want. And did we lose Dante? Did he check out?
No,
there. There you are. Sorry. Just weren't appearing on my screen. So one of Dante's jobs for the Light Lab is going to be to work with the session chairs and kind of make sure we have more detail as we get closer in terms of programming and whatever else we can do to support that session. So you guys can expect a call from him.
Well, let's do this. For this year, VCs, it's up to you. You set the deadlines for content, okay? And if you find that people aren't responding to that, then we'll set a deadline. So we can sort of play this by ear for each session, but we definitely want to have that conversation before we walk in there in March, and so we can keep paperwork up to date, but also make sure that we're getting the kinds of sessions. Is that unreasonable, VCs? And then we can check in a year from now and say, okay, we need to make hard deadlines.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea and then have the evaluation and see what works, what doesn't work.
Okay. And just to be clear, stuff like paperwork in, bios, you guys don't have to worry about any of that. Or like the non-member forms, Deanna's on top of making sure all the chairs and get all that stuff in. Content is really what you guys, and I think last time we were kind of I think when we first started this, I think I had envisioned that the VCs would do some of that, but you don't need to worry about that. Deanna's on top of that, and the chairs are all on top of that. So, okay, great. This is the discussion I wanted to have today. So, any other thoughts about the VC supervising? Okay. Would some of you?
Well, I had one thing to throw in. My audio is terrible, so if this is not coming through, apologies. Something that I think might be helpful is a roundtable just for session chairs and the VCs in charge, like we're doing here. Email is helpful, and you can get a lot done, but it's also helpful if you can get the hive mind. Last year, there were people I was emailing and calling and that had agreed to be on the panel. I have a feeling there was somebody who would have been able to tap those people on the shoulder and get a response. And so if there were 10, 11 folks sitting around monitors like this, there may have been opportunities to solve some of those problems that I just didn't have another resource that I could throw at it to figure out how to grab that person by the collar. It would also be a good chance for the VCs to be able to say, okay, where are you? Do you have a plan for this session? Is it coalescing? Are your folks resistant to putting together PowerPoint slides? I think it might be a grooming of the minds as opposed to just email chains that I'm not as guilty as anyone when we're in the semester. A lot of us are in academia. It's very hard to divert attention over to this from the thing that's burning right in front of your face anyway. So some FaceTime might be a very useful thing.
Okay. I think, Lighting Commission 2 was an experiment last year, and in some ways it succeeded, in some ways it failed. I think if we can have everything assigned by Commission 2, we can have that breakout session where we can do some of that. But that's also so chaotic in any way, just because we've just sort of made those decisions. I like the idea of doing a virtual meeting, like a month after the conference, where we just sit everybody down, talk through, have Jesse Portillo, who's going to be leading programming next year, just sort of help sort of have this conversation and get the VCs in the room, get the chairs in the room, and lay out expectations. And maybe Deanna, if you could come and help us with that too, just to sort of help, but I think that's a great idea, Nate. So thank you for throwing that in.
Yes, of course.
Okay. All Okay. Next thing, if it's okay, I want to move on. The other expectations of leadership. From time to time, we're going to have some special projects. So I may be calling upon you guys to help us out with that. Right now, I'm still pretty good at. Like I said, the list of people who got this email for the meeting today, it's a pretty big group. So, if later on, I'm going to ask for some help on a couple projects. If you guys can help out with that. There is an expectation that, you're going to have to do one or two things during the year. If you're not doing one or two things during the year, let me know. We can help find something for you to do. But let me just be frank. In the past, it was literally VCs and leadership would come to the meeting, not do anything the entire year. Programming, the commissioners and a couple other VCs would do something during the year, and always the coordinators would be always working. So we just sort of want to make sure we're dividing the work. You guys have been pretty good about answering emails. I'm going to keep doing it. Let me get some feedback here. When I have questions, I've been putting them in red. I'll say it's worked so far. When I sent out the initial thing for this meeting, only 12 people, I think, responded, which is probably, I think, the 12 people. It's the majority of the people who are here today who responded, but I still got a lot of people who didn't even bother to say yay or nay. So I'd appreciate you letting me know that. Are the emails working okay so far? Those of you who know me know I tend to get a little email. I write big emails. Sorry. Thoughts or suggestions on what I can do to make that better? Better ways to communicate? Obviously, I think this works great.
As a person who gets a million emails a day, the only thing I can stress is always making sure that you try to keep the same threads or at least the same subject headings, so that it's easily searchable.
Okay. Yeah. Google helps with that some, but yeah. And I feel for those of you who aren't on a Google account or have to deal with Outlook, Andrea.
Sorry.
I just feel your pain. That's all.
As someone with Outlook and stuck with Outlook frequently, very clear reason lines. Like what's this about? Very clear headlines is very nice. Again, with the dozens of emails an hour, it makes going through to get where I need to go very quick.
I'll tell you what, if I remember in the subject line, what I'll just put if I need a response or not, or a quick response or long response. And again, if you get something from me and you can't respond, just say, hey, can't respond right now. Sorry. That helps too. So, okay. Any other ways we can improve communication?
Just real quickly, this meeting kind of snuck up on me. Luckily, I was available, but a 24-hour notice probably wouldn't hurt sometimes. In this case, I don't remember when was the last time when this one was scheduled originally, but this one snuck up on me today. But it
was scheduled a month ago, and I'll admit this morning I'm like, I should have sent a reminder. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
We sort of snuck into communication too. Real quick, I just want to mention Sightlines. CC and Autumn have put together a really great sort of list of Sightline articles. I just want to warn everybody, if you need something in Sightlines, and I think what I'm about ready to say is probably for people who are going to be listening later, keep in mind we need a month lead time. Okay. So when we're thinking about things like if we need student volunteers, if we need, I know we're talking about the dance competition in a minute. If you need something in Sightlines, you just have to remember that we need a month lead time, and keep in mind the February, March one's going to be pretty heavy. So, if you want to get something in January, December, you need at least a month lead time. So if you have ideas or things information we need to get out, let CC know, let Autumn know, and write something up. I mean, they're not, their job is not to write it for you, but if you need to get information out like that, let them know. If you want to put something on Facebook, we're having trouble finding panelists for the Polikoff session. I can put that stuff on the email and on the Facebook and stuff like that. So let me know those kinds of things. and actually, CC can put that on Facebook too, and Autumn can both put it on Facebook too. But if you need something, let me know. Autumn or CC, is there anything else I'm forgetting about communication we should bring up?
I think we do have a couple of openings that we've been trying to ask for article ideas or article suggestions. I'm not sure which months those openings still are, but please, I've tried to put out a request on Facebook, and I don't know how well that works, but if you guys have things, yes, please let me know what they are. But I just texted, we have to submit, like, for instance, September 1st, I have to have it submitted for it to be in the October edition. So I got to get it ahead of time. So if you've got something you want us to put in, get it now so that I can get to work on it. And I don't mind doing some writing, just I can't figure out what's in your brain.
Just real quick, has anyone? I've had the opportunity to work a little bit, and CC and I have both been posting stuff on the Facebook page. Have you guys been seeing that stuff? Is the stuff, if you have, is stuff you're interested in? I've been trying to post not only stuff for the commission, but just general lighting stuff, just to keep it constant in people's feeds. Anybody seen it yet, or is this something just not showing up on people's feeds?
I'll be honest with you, it's not showing up on my feed at all, but I also have my restrictions insanely set at the moment, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see those.
I see some, I don't see all of them, and I mean that goes for both USITT as a whole as well as the Lighting Commission, but I think I'm starting to see a little bit of an uptick in lighting specific.
Okay. Is the stuff you are seeing appropriate? Is that okay? Do you want us to see random lighting stuff, or?
I actually like what we're seeing, and in fact, this is Barbizon talking too. In addition to seeing what I do there's been several that I've been reposting into Barbizon. If it's stuff that's interesting articles, interesting technology, and stuff that's going on, I have been doing a lot of cross-posting. So on my end, anyway.
Okay. If you guys could help get the word out about that page too, that'd be helpful. I forget what the exact, but if you search Lighting Commission USITT, it's pretty easy to find. And again, I'm trying to use it to find ways to get our information out there as best we can, so that when we do have important stuff, it does show up in people's feeds. So I have to say okay, those of you who know me know I go off on tangents, but no, the one that I'm about ready to post did anybody see the one where you shine light on this black surface and it doesn't show the light? They shined a laser on it. Okay, I'll tease that. That's the next thing I'm going to post. So I think it's going to have some pretty cool ramifications for us. Okay, I've digressed. Remember, Autumn, it's your job to keep me on track. So communication. Okay, all right, here's my other question. This is the last thing for leadership is, do we need to downsize our leadership? I forget who I had a conversation with. I think it might have been Josh. If you guys get a chance, the link there is bit.ly. Here, I'll put it in the chat. Lighting leaders, and it's our list of stuff. We don't have the most leadership. We don't have the most people. Scene design has a few more than we do, but there's some commissions that have 5 people on their list. So here's my question: Is this list too big? And does it make us inefficient? What do you guys think?
Well, I think the more the better. I mean, you can sort of see that by the way I'm reorganizing Light Lab, but I don't see why not to have a lot of people. It gets us more ideas, it gets us more opinions. I don't think there's any harm in it.
I also think the way that we're seeing the VC responsibilities with programming, I think it really helps, because then you are sharing that load. And so oftentimes there's a session that can be between one person or another, and you can actually shift it appropriately so that nobody has too much extra work.
I also like the idea of having more people involved, because I think it is more conducive to an inclusive environment. And I do know of some people like me who do both lighting and scenic stuff, and had gone to both commissions and had preferred the Lighting Commission to scenic because they felt that it was more open and inviting. It was not as standoffish. And granted, this was years ago, but I like that idea that we're trying to invite more people, that we're not trying to be the big scary group that doesn't want to hear other people.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's been the reason why I've been adding people or adding people to this list is to get more people involved. It's why we invite everybody to this meeting, not just the commissioners or the coordinators. Let me just throw this out right now. I do think though I need help. I need help finding leaders who we need to find. I'm trying to find the best way to put this. We need more diversity. We need more underrepresented contingencies in our leadership. As I look at the list, there's a lot of people who are like me. So if you know people who might be interested, please send their names up the line. Again, we can start with simple little committee work and then get people chairing sessions. But I really want to work on getting that list more represented. How's that sound? Okay. Let's see. Anything else? Any other questions about leadership or what we're doing here before I move on?
Oh, I have one more thing.
Okay.
I think as well as diversity in terms of leadership, we also, and I think we've gotten better at this over time, but making sure that it's also not just all academics
yes.
on there, because we do need to have that diversity in the constituencies as well. And I think, we certainly have some members, some VCs now that are not only in academia or have been, but have since moved to something else. But I think getting more representation across our field is also really important.
I know Paul just signed off and back on, but what Paul, I just want to let you know what Autumn just said was getting more people outside of academia involved. So, if you know people who are in the industry who might want to be involved, please send them our way. So, okay. All right, let's do some updates on awards. We'll start with the distinguished award in lighting. In our second leadership meeting, we decided to nominate a specific individual. I'm not going to say who. If you'd like to know who, the only reason I'm not saying who is the person has not been confirmed by the board. Well, actually, no, I'm going to say it. It's my brain just froze. Autumn, help me, or Scott.
Fred Foster.
Thank you. Sorry. How can you forget Fred's name? So we've nominated Fred. We got all the paperwork in. Signs are good. That we didn't. We had a little debacle last year because Todd can't write letters. But we think we've got the nomination nailed this year. So we should hear more on that. I'm hoping actually the board she should be approved in the board meeting next week. So we're moving on that. The Barbizon Award. We have judges for that award. One of the things that we do, guys, and one of the things I'm going to start asking you guys for help on actually in about 2 minutes, we judge at least the Barbizon Award every year, which is sponsored by Barbizon, and it's graduate or undergraduate, but I don't know that undergrads actually have a chance at it, which I think is, if I was to say something I think we might want to focus on at some point is seeing if we can get an undergraduate lighting award, because right now we just have the one. There used to be one. It was Stage Technologies, but that fell through somehow. So this year the judges are going to be myself, because I've never done it. I need to do it. Scott's going to do it again, and Vicki Scott, our former commissioner, is going to do it again as well, and Andrea is going to be our alternate. Okay, that leads me to the Master Craftsman Award. This is an award that's given every year, but it goes to a different area every year. 2017, I think, is going to be the first time it's been given to lighting. And we're actually working on criteria. Kirk Starks and I and Scott and a few other people are working on criteria for what that's going to be. It's sponsored by Bernie Works, and we're going to run our stuff by Bernie and see what he thinks. But I need some volunteers. Right now, Kirk, who is our VC of Technology, is going to do it. Would anybody be interested in serving as a judge for that? It's essentially, well, master craftsman. I think we're thinking about, it is undergrad only, but it's things like I think it's undergrad only. I have to check. It's things like we're talking about practicals, any sort of crafty project. But would anybody be interested in being a judge for that? The time commitment.
Yeah, what's the time commitment? When is it?
It's going to be, Scott. If I remember right, it's November, right? November, December is when you do all the judging, and I know it's all wrapped up by the end of December. And I know Cece, you've done it too, right?
Thereabouts. It may have been a little bit later than that. Truthfully, I don't remember the deadlines, and a bunch of us, the deadline, like any deadline, crept up on us, and it turned out we had an extra week cushion with our contact at headquarters. Surprisingly enough, though, the biggest thing was that there were 3 judges, and it ended up being a 3-way tie with our recipient suggestions, and so we had further discussion. And that's when the final decision was made for the lighting award. That's I think it was Barbizon one.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyway, it was interesting. It was very interesting seeing the work.
Yeah, it ends up being about a month commitment. Everything's online. USITT has it's similar to the poster judging where you literally log on, you look at their materials and rate them. So. Anybody interested?
I'm interested.
I would be interested.
Okay. So I heard Victoria. Who else?
Andrea.
Okay, Andrea. Okay, who else? Well, okay, that's a good start. Well, okay, then if it's okay, I'm going to go ahead and throw the 2 of your names in there, and then anybody interested in being an alternate?
Throw me on as the alternate.
Okay, who said that?
Darren.
Okay. Okay. That rocks. Thank you, guys. All right, the last update is conference sessions. Do you want to just... Deanna, just anything we need to say, or any updates you want to give with that?
No, I mean, I think unless somebody has a question or wants to chat with me about anything, we're doing good. We have 17 sessions. They all have panelists except for 1 or 2. And all the VCs have been copied on all the emails that have been going back and forth with the panelists. Everything's in the system. And by the deadline, just about. And then we're moving forward on the non-member funding priorities now, and all the paperwork is already in progress. So yeah, I think we're doing well. The one thing that we need is we need adjudicators for the vetting of the applications for the student dance design competition. So we were hoping to pull that from the commission leadership. If anybody would like to volunteer for that, Jonathan Allender-Zivik is the chair for that, and he's coordinating. It involves the applications are due October 30th and November 13th because they're separate graduate and undergraduate deadlines, and we're hoping to get the responses back December 4th through the 11th. So we're talking about kind of a November month, kind of like the poster session time frame for that work. But that's about it. Anybody want to volunteer?
I can volunteer for that too.
Okay, that was Andrea.
Yeah.
Actually, this is Darren. Todd, if you take me off the other one, put me onto this one, it'll work better with some other time commitments that I've got.
Okay. Hey, Nate. That
was Darren?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nate, were you wanting to do the dance competition, or were you wanting to do the Master Craftsman?
I may be able to do either. This semester is going to be very busy for me, but once we get to October, November, it should be slowing down. So I alternate as needed. I may be able to do one of the 2.
Okay, I'll go ahead and throw you in if it's okay as alternate for the Master Craftsman. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably better.
So was that was
That was Darren, Andrea.
Sorry, so that was Darren and Andrea. And was there anybody else?
Great.
I was just going to say that your cat is volunteering over your shoulder.
It's nearing dinner time, so they're bearing down on me now.
If you need an additional, or if you need someone else to vet it, I can probably do it. But I won't step on someone else's toes if they want to do it more.
Okay. I'm sorry to do this, but my iPad keeps cutting in and out. So it's Andrea and Darren, and was there anybody else? And Victoria maybe as an alternate. Was there anybody that I missed?
Hey, I tell you what, do me a favor, guys. If you're interested in the dance competition, send Deanna an email.
Yeah, you can email me. Yeah,
I've got the 3 that I need. So,
okay.
All right, cool. All right, I think that's it for programming. I mean, we got some pretty cool stuff. Let me just tell you real quick about the Musion session. The Musion session is the 3D. It's creating essentially a 3D person on stage. I got to say, Russ Blaine, I hope he's going to listen to this later. I got to give a big shout out to him, man. He has been working his butt off trying to make this happen. We have gone up and down on what's going to cost, but we've got it down to a pretty reasonable cost. Right now, I'm writing a proposal to the Commissioners Fund to see if we can get some extra funding to help bring somebody in from London and cover some shipping costs. And I think Paul, he might be reaching out to you. I'm not sure if he has. About maybe getting some stuff shipped, but if he doesn't get in touch with you soon, I will be in touch soon.
He did get in touch with me. Okay. We exchanged emails, but unfortunately, we're just doing a 10 by 10, so we're renting a small van, so that won't, and it's coming out of our Kentucky office, so it's not going to fit. So I apologize, we can't help, otherwise we would.
Okay, that's actually great to know. Thank you. All right. Well, but the proposal I'm putting in actually is going to cover that shipping just in case. So now I know we need that. But it's going to cost about $3,000. But I think it's going to be a pretty cool session. The Light Lab is going to devote a decent chunk of stage space to it. So Eric, thank you for helping us sort of coordinate that, and Brian as well. Eric and Brian, I know we're all going to see each other in St. Louis in a couple weeks. So if there's any questions about that session, let me know. And if we think there's any additional costs I need to ask for, I need to know pretty quick. Like I said, this weekend I'm going to write that proposal. But I think it's going to be one of the cooler sessions we've definitely done in a while. Okay. The last thing was Light Lab. Brian, anything you want to say about Light Lab, or any updates?
No, I think things are rolling right along, pretty much as expected. So we probably need to get a Light Lab committee meeting going. For those of you who are on that group, expect an email from me on that soon. Anthony, I know, is working on the plot, and I think he's on the... Do you have anything you want to add, Anthony, at this point?
At this point, the rough plot should be 24 to 48 hours that I'll get that to you. As far as anyone within the lab itself, events and what those needs are, I know, Brian, you've already given me kind of a general list, but as we're talking about really specific needs, like, the sooner the better. That's the best I can say about that. So please help me out with your needs. So the plot, the plot in general is a mix of things, because there's the IMAG needs, there's lots of needs for special events and things like that. So, but the sooner people have things that aren't on my list, the better for me. So any help would be great.
Roger that. Cool. And then I think for everyone else, the other new thing this year is that we are going to be doing our own student volunteer application. Something we've talked about for years, but we've never actually done it until now. So, and Ron is working with us, so that'll actually just come right off of the regular website. So we'll have a link on the Lighting Commission page, and probably one on the student volunteer page as well, specifically saying, like, if you want to do Light Lab, click here instead of the regular one. So pretty psyched about that. I think that'll be cool.
Just a quick question about that.
And for you guys, if you are telling your students to do it, there's going to be a line on the application for who recommended you. The goal here is that we want to give anyone who's already involved in the commission a little bit of a priority in getting their students in. So make sure you tell them to put your name down.
Okay. Oh, by the way, well, should if a student's applying, they should apply for both the us and
They certainly can.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, we're going to hold our wait list longer than National usually does, so
okay.
Because we can, basically. We have a little more flexibility than National does. We won't probably get as inundated. So,
once you get the details, let me know. And again, everybody, we got to pass the word on this. So if you're in education, tell your students, and if you're not in education, if you know educators, let's get the word out because we want a really good crew. So okay, cool. The last item on the agenda was special projects. Currently, I think we have 2 special projects that are underway. We just finished a major special project last year, the compendium. So anybody who was involved in the compendium, thank you. If you didn't get a chance to get one at the conference, they are back on sale and they are on the bookstore. And if you haven't gotten one and you're an educator or even not, get it. I cheated. I already used one of the projects last semester in my class. But okay, the 2 projects we got going, we started them actually not last year, but the year before, or not, were the graphic standards. We're working on updating that, and we're also working on updating the creating a new graphic standard for documenting networks, either lighting networks or projection networks, or something more than a light plot. I think we could give some guidance in that, similar to what sound does for their schematics. I don't have a progress report right now. Adam Chamberlain is our VC of Special Projects. He's in charge of those. We've been in touch all summer. I'll say they're not moving quickly. We haven't done a lot of work on those right now. If you are interested in helping with that or helping us getting it going, do me a favor, send me an email. Okay. We just need to get off the start. I know once we get going, we're going to be fine. We just got to get off the starting blocks. And I just want to be able to give Adam all the help that he needs. But hopefully, I'm going to touch base with him again this week just to see what's going on. So. That was my list. Anything else we need to talk about, or any other thoughts, suggestions we need to do before we go? Autumn, anything I forgot?
I think you covered it.
Okay. Let me just wrap up by saying I cannot thank you guys enough for all your help and all your hard work. I mean, taking a little over an hour. Some of us have been here a couple hours, hanging out and talking. If questions come up about anything we've talked about today, or there's something we need to talk about again, let me know. I'm not sure when the next meeting will be. I would say mid-fall. We should probably shoot for another quick meeting, and I know that's kind of crunch time for everybody. I should have this posted on, if everything recorded good, I should have it posted on YouTube later tonight. Just for those of you who couldn't, for those who couldn't come. So again, thank you for your hard work. I'll see you guys soon.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Todd.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
But Todd, you announced the DAA.
I know.
Okay.
Should I? Well, yeah. I don't think it's going to get out. He knows, by the way.
Okay.
I told him we put him up for it, so. Or we asked him first, so. Just to make sure it was okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I know I wasn't going to do it, but.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, see ya. Thanks.
Sorry, my computer was awful.
That's okay. I'm just glad you made it back. Well, we'll have. Oh, hold on. Let me pause the video. Hey, bye, video people.